Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. They're all big, but this is the biggest of all because we have Chief Barbara Duncan in the house. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you.
Now, you've avoided me for like 2 years, but you're back here with some great news. I read in my favorite newspaper this week, our crime rate is way down.
It is. I have a copy of the Salisbury Independent right here with me now, today. Crime is definitely trending down. We had a very good year in 2018. A lot of hard work by the men and women of the Salisbury Police Department, absolutely, and a lot of connectivity with the city itself. So really the city is in a great position coming out of 2018 as far as crime goes.
And when you take all the per capita numbers and where we were 10 years ago and all that, right now the city is the safest that it's ever been.
Yeah, you know what? That's an honest statement.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
More work to do.
More work to do.
Yeah, no time to sit on the sidelines and rest on the laurels.
Now, when you go through a course and you analyze all the numbers and you do it professionally, so you have a whole different handle on it. But I actually said to the mayor, I said, what has happened? What's going on here? He goes, it's really simple. He's like, 2009 was the worst year we ever had. Our Barbara Duncan arrived 2009, 2010, and crime has steadily gone down. You only have one thing to credit. It's our police chief. Is that true?
No. No.
It's just a coincidence that things have gotten so much better since you arrived.
There's just a lot of people that are focused right now in producing a really good product for the city. Mainly internally, you have a lot of dedicated individuals who have remained loyal to their mission and really taken advantage of all of the community engagement pieces and all of the law enforcement training protocols, and they're polished and they're focused and they do a phenomenal job.
Do they like it out there and talking to people? I mean, if I was a police officer, I would much rather just wave in the car and go by, but I see them out there actually engaging. Do they like doing that?
Yeah, most of them, they really do. They get into law enforcement in the first place to make a difference, a positive impact, to make those connections. Even the younger generation, the millennials, who spend most of their time behind devices and screens, really do enjoy the interaction that happens on a one-on-one level.
And that's something that you've preached, that you've got to get out of the car, that you have to engage. And you do lots of these forums where you go out and speak, have officers speak. It really is instructive for those of us who don't understand how it all works.
Well, there's a lot of educational pieces that go with it, but also the information that we get, the opinions that we get, the input that we get from the community members help us as well.
Right.
But there is a lot that goes into the communication piece, and actually we don't do a great job of it. We're getting better. I think that's trending upward.
Right.
Like our crime is trending downward. So that level of it is improving as well.
Right. One thing that impresses me too is your embracing of technology and even social media. I mean, there's no way to not know what's going on in the Salisbury Police Department if you want to find out. It's all, you put it all out there.
Right. It's social media is necessary. It's become the platform to go to, and most of our consuming public enjoy that. They can interact with us. We're becoming a little more agile on that field.
Right.
We're getting better at it. We're learning as we go. And there are a lot of individuals that are in law enforcement today that have recognized the value of it, and they're capitalizing it, and they're helping us learn even more. So that's a very powerful position for us to be in.
Just 2-3 years ago, there was talk of implementing a curfew for kids. There was a sense that kids were running wild around town. The kids on the bicycles, we'd see that kind of stuff. If it wasn't nailed down, it was going to be stolen. A lot of focus on teenagers. And one of the things in that report is the number of arrests of teenagers is way down. How has that changed? Why has that changed?
The one thing that I have noticed is that when our crime rates drop, our calls for service go up. And
they're up this year.
Yeah, they are. And it is also true that our arrests tend to take a downward turn. So there is something there to that. The calls for service, if I can speak to those for just a minute. So we had about 58,000 of them this year. Half of them were self-generated by the officers themselves, and half of them come in from the public. And we've seen that year after year.
Right, and that was something I didn't know. I didn't know the officers could also make, that they initiate a call and that becomes a call. I never knew that.
Sure. So if they conduct a traffic stop, if they conduct a foot patrol or a business check, or they go to court, or they're out at a neighborhood watch meeting, those are all calls for service. We have to account for the time. So it's interesting to see how year after year, though, that is about a 50-50 split right down the middle, from our public reaching out to us to us actually, reaching out and generating those calls. So getting back to the issue with the curfew, that was definitely an option that we pushed forward. There are certainly other avenues, and our public rallied and met us in the middle. And now we have things like community conversations on race. We've got the Police Athletic League, which just started up. The Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Control helped us make a connection with the national PAL here on the local level through the state of Maryland. So they're here. They've got a footprint here with us now. We supported the Salisbury Rhinos over across from Pemberton on Fitzwater.
Right.
And we'll be doing more with them this spring as well, and some other athletic and non-athletic events.
Doverdale, big success in Doverdale.
Lacrosse, right. We're gearing up for our third season over there. So focus again on youth. Focus on building relationships with our youth, with their families, with their parents, with their guardians, with the education system, the teachers who come in contact with them on a daily basis. It's a lot of work. It certainly would have been a much streamlined process with a curfew, but that's not the end of the story.
Right.
This involves a lot more focus, a lot more involvement, not just from one or two people at the agency, but it's an agency-wide philosophy that needs to be in place, and the city's embraced it. Our business leaders through Greater Salisbury have come together. They've helped us partner with Junior Achievement to make sure that we have summer employment for our youth here, and where we're paired up with our kids here from the city, throughout the city, not just at the police department. There's fire, there's field ops, public works. So all of that is clicking. It's a lot. It's a lot of connectivity. So that has made the impact even more valuable.
And I love how you walk the walk. Like, I'll be on social media and there'll be pictures from Doverdale, and there way in the back there's the chief, like in the net, or or playing basketball. Like, you're out there, you're participating in what's going on. You're with those kids.
Mm-hmm. Right. It does make a difference. It makes a difference. It's nice to see kids that you're working with in a mentoring program, say at an elementary school here in the city. If they run up to you out at the Salvation Army and just out of nowhere, they're complete football uniform and give you a big hug.
Right.
And ask, hey, can you watch the game for a little bit? Or,
Yeah.
hey, I forgot my mouth guard. Can you help me go get a mouth guard? So that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think
it humanizes what we do, and it allows us to see that our purpose really is about protection and service.
Right, and I think we've had good infrastructure with the Salvation Army and the Hazel Center, and now the new center up there in the middle of Salisbury.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Right. So the community centers are starting to come online. Truett Street, and next will be the one over on Light Street, and those were some of the things that we had heard loud and clear from our public when we were having the discussions about curfews and truancy and crime that our youth were getting involved in. So, and you know what? The administration, the city administration, the mayor's office, the council, the city council, they're working, they're focusing. They heard that loud and clear, and they're making those things happen.
Yeah. My job is to watch people, and during that argument or the discussion with the juveniles, I watched you closely because there was a fever pitch there for about a month where we were going to arrest all these juveniles and teach everyone a lesson. And you were very quiet at first, and then you came around with why this is probably not a great idea. Like, have we thought of this? Have we thought of that? And as you added to that argument, it became obvious that it was not going to be the easy solution. It was not the solution for right now, but there were other solutions, and it seems like through the arrests that we've worked through that.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's so much that I can attribute to good debate. If we're all, if no one's speaking up, if no one's talking, if nobody's reaching back across the table, we're not going to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish. So rigorous debate is something that is deep-rooted in our nation's history, and it typically produces the best results. And that's what happened. So everybody had their opportunity to be heard, everybody weighed in. And then, as that fervor started to die down, we actually had folks rolling up their sleeves and volunteering to jump in and help out, which was phenomenal.
Yeah. All the numbers are down in the 10-year cycle, 20, 30, 40%. Murders is one of those numbers that go up and down. We had 2 years where we had 11 murders. Or no, 7. It was 7 each year, right? That we could have that many. We had 3 this last year, which is about normal in the 10-year cycle. I've always said there's only so much police can do about murders. Am I right or no?
I don't believe that statement to be true. You do have an issue with domestic violence, and I think even there too, if we're identifying that problem early enough, we can avoid the homicide. It's definitely a lot more difficult to do because there's so much emotion, and typically they tend to be crimes of passion when you're dealing with domestic violence. But again, we can apply different resources to that in a preventative way versus what we often see play out. But when you're dealing with homicides that occur at a street level, again there too, I'm a firm believer in if we have a lot of issues that are related to the problem of gang violence, and some of those homicides this year, in fact, were related to that.
So when I go places, people are all the time who don't live in Salisbury, don't understand Salisbury, always go, what are y'all doing about the gang problem over there? And I go, I don't see a gang problem. I don't see kids on corners. I don't know what they mean when they say the gang problem. Can you help me with that?
Absolutely. One of the reasons that we're in Doverdale playground right now with Doverdale Lacrosse and the Doverdale Hawks is because there was a gang problem that was developing over there, and it was robbing our youth of just that, of their youth. So at the time it was State's Attorney Matt Massarello who kicked it off, and now Judge Massarello remains committed to that process. And we're not going to get every kid to make the right turn, certainly, but we do get a lot of them. And the gang problem, as you said, you're not going to see a bunch of kids hanging out on a street corner. Technology's preventing that today. So those pieces of connectivity will happen through devices, electronic devices. But yeah, we do, and we stay focused on it, and we partner with Maryland State Police, Wycomico County Sheriff's Office, Fruitland, Delmar, Salisbury University, and we all work under a grant from the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention to reduce gang violence, violent crime perpetrated specifically by gang members who are willing to cross boundaries, who don't understand where boundaries are, and will go right into the next jurisdiction and continue their pattern of violence. So it is something that we work on. It is something that we collect data on, analyze, and then detail our resources to address.
Do you feel like there are any neighborhoods in Salisbury that aren't safe, or?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't have that feeling. What I feel about a particular neighborhood versus another is the engagement.
Right.
How are those residents in that neighborhood, how are they able to engage? How are they able to get across what their needs are so that we can meet them and apply the laws, to best assist the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, I ride my bike all over town, in the nighttime even, and places that used to, when I was a kid, were considered dangerous, Smith Street, Light Street, over there, Naylor Street. I don't get that feeling anymore when I feel safe in there. Yeah,
it's shifting. It's definitely shifting. And you know what, when it comes to crime, it does take a while. So I think what we've seen, certainly over the past couple of years, is that there is no real true quick fix.
Right.
And when you have a shift in mission, or a mission that keeps jumping around on you, it's tough, to find that direction and stay in that direction. But we've managed to stay right on mission, and that's why you're seeing this decline over a longer period of time. Yeah. It's sustainable.
I'm fascinated by the technology. For years on Waverly Avenue, people crossing from the Wawa back into the neighborhood, that intersection, there's not really an intersection, but there's an intersection there, but you would see all kinds of trouble with people crossing the street and just the way people would congregate, and it felt like a threatening environment, people coming with their groceries back to the neighborhood. It was just always kind of weird. And I noticed in the last couple of years you've put a camera there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I've always thought that's where they need a camera, because there's like weird stuff that goes on here.
Right.
So you guys have that all figured out.
A lot of, if you look environmentally, and I don't necessarily mean the green side of the environment, but if you look at the actual brick and mortar and the sidewalks and the roadways, if you look environmentally at crime, you tend to see that it really is about place, offering opportunity,
Right.
as long as there is a victim and a suspect or a potential suspect.
Right.
So you get that triangle. And certainly that's not to minimize the green side. I mean, there's a lot of landscaping that intentionally goes into play now in the city, which also helps in crime prevention as well. But Waverly, Ohio, Maryland, that area that you're talking about right now, it needed some extra attention. It needed an extra set, of eyes out there to assist us.
Yeah, and I was always opposed to cameras, growing up reading 1984, but now I get it. I mean,
right.
It has certainly worked.
It's a force multiplier, and certainly the younger generation today, especially those that are college educated, they're accustomed to it. You wouldn't go anywhere on any college campus today without anticipating or expecting there to be a
Right.
camera there watching over you. So, that plus all of our major commercial hubs, our major metropolitan cities, they are all equipped with cameras. You can't go anywhere
Yeah.
in any big city today without being on camera at least 3 or 4 times as you're walking down a block. That's because they are beneficial, they're helpful.
The predictive software that you have is fascinating as well, where you guys can almost figure out where crimes are likely to occur and then send an officer there.
So we use Predpol. They've been in business for quite a while. They use a mathematical algorithm that was used to predict earthquakes, and they tweaked it a little bit, and they drafted years and years of our crime data. And now twice a day they push out reports that let us know you've got a 500 by 500 square foot box that you need to have a presence in. And this is we can dial in the crime that we're working on, and the goal is to prevent it from happening in the first place. So we've enjoyed 3 to 5% decrease by using Predpol.
Right. Historically, turnover's been a big problem in the Salisbury Police Department, and you seem to have stemmed that.
Well, turnover in law enforcement is an issue, and certainly Salisbury PD we're not immune to it. It comes down to a number of factors. It starts from recruitment, and it goes all the way through into the academy, and then your first couple of years as you're working with an agency, and your perception, your hopes and your perceptions don't really match up with reality. We also have individuals that might not be suited for municipal policing. There's all types of law enforcement from the federal government and through the state, county, and then local, and every single component is different. Specifically related to Salisbury Police Department, though, I think we started to stem the tide when salaries were brought in line with our counterparts who were doing similar work, certainly not at the pace or the volume or the scale that our officers do every single day, but they are now getting compensated fairly, and not only has our mayor and council continued working on that, but they've also pledged to make sure that they keep moving that ball down the field, and that it's not a static thing, and that it will continue to be analyzed and moved forward and moved up the scale, which is really what individuals want to hear. We also have different incentives, different hiring and signing incentives now, where that wasn't in play in years back. And, technology, uniforms, vehicles, the sense of how the community relates to their police officer, all of those things have a huge impact on people staying, on people becoming interested in becoming a municipal police officer, and then making the commitment to stay here with the agency.
Well, what I see too is, and I see this in the school system, where people, they believe in our superintendent now, so the politicians are more willing to give money to the school system. I think they believed in you and the arguments that you made, and they were willing to increase the salaries for the officers because they believed in what you were doing, what your objectives were, and that you were going to be here, and they felt really good about expressing confidence in you.
Again,
You won't take any credit, I know.
I'm going to deflect and go
Yeah,
towards
right.
something completely different.
Yeah, but I also heard like it's also as simple as the officers complained about their pants for a long time. So the city bought a new model of pants for the police officers, and they appreciate that. Little things like that make a difference.
Little things like that do make a difference, and your officers have to be comfortable. They have to be able to perform the tasks and stay on mission that you want them to do. And so something like a change in a uniform can make a world of difference. We're asking these individuals to commit 12 hours of their life every single day that they're working. They're here, and we're asking them to look professional and accomplish the mission. And so in order to do that, they have to be comfortable,
Right.
plain and simple, and they have to be safe. Safety is a big priority, and certainly we're focused on that as well. We've lost way too many officers over the years, and if they're in uniforms that are comfortable and their equipment helps them to maintain safety and maintain focus on their mission, then that's what the city is committed to doing.
I expected some pushback on the body cameras, but I haven't detected that at all.
There was some pushback initially. However, we had already kind of, in law enforcement in the industry, we'd already kind of gotten over that hurdle with in-car video. So there was a big pushback years ago in the 90s, in the early 90s, when you had in-car video systems coming online, and we had them here in Salisbury as well. So that there was some pushback, but not as much. And certainly with the climate around the country being what it has been towards law enforcement and the lack of trust, certainly the professionals at the Salisbury Police Department, they embraced it, they engage it, and now it's a valuable tool for them to have.
When I was a kid growing up in Ocean City, there was a cop, his name was Jimmy Baker. They called him Bake. He was 340 pounds,
Yeah.
and they finally decided that he would have to stay in one car. He couldn't share cars because he was breaking the seats in the police cars. And his primary job was to walk the boardwalk behind the guy who collected money from the parking meters to guard the parking change. Everyone loved this cop. I mean, they just, hey, Bake, how are you? He was like, this icon. You created something similar in Salisbury with Aaron Hudson, Bull Hudson, who was the ambassador for the police downtown, a great guy. We lost him recently. I was wondering if I could get you to talk about that, because he really made a difference in terms of how we all interacted and felt with the police in that downtown community.
When I first came on board, I had an opportunity to watch, observe, what individuals were doing and how they were doing it. So right away, anyone could have recognized Bull's recipe for connectivity was present, and he enjoyed it. He gravitated towards it. It was what made him special as a police officer and as a human being here with our agency. So it was a no-brainer, to put him downtown and have him make the type of connection that we needed him to make downtown. And the focus really has been on revitalization, and he's been a huge part of that.
Yeah, and his partner John Damari, they were just amazing together. Like, you'd go out and you'd hope to run into him, because it was just you wanted to connect. And I used to ask him how you were doing and all this, and I'd try to get some gossip from the department. He wouldn't give me any. But I always loved how he was so friendly and open. But if that radio cracked and something got said that I didn't understand, his whole attitude would change, and it didn't matter that I was there anymore. He was at work. Just what a great officer! What a great asset to the police.
Yeah, huge asset. And just he lived and breathed blue, so he understood what his job was, and he loved his job, and he loved working. He loved running into you. He loved running into all of the business owners downtown. Susan, Teresa, Matt. Everybody had such a huge impact on what it was to be Bull Hudson downtown.
And it's different down there now. It really is.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met the new guy yesterday, so we're excited about that. But it's a different vibe. It's a different place.
It is different, and it's going to be a while before that different feeling feels good again. You know. So, but we're here. We're not going anywhere. You know, we're right here alongside you, and we're gonna stay on top of it.
What can people do? What can citizens do to help you do your job to make it easier for you?
The biggest, where we get the most from our public is through open lines of communication. That always is hugely beneficial for us. So if someone sees one of our crime bulletins that go up, or we're posting about a particular program that we might be running, or a neighborhood association, we need the public to show up. We need the public to participate in crime reduction. There is a lot of work being done with privately owned and installed camera on residential dwellings. That would be a huge help for us as well. We have in the past in certain neighborhoods been able to get leads on crimes and work towards reducing crime because of a privately owned camera. So that's another solid way that you can actually, a tangible way, other than keeping the lines of communication open, that you could help participate and help us continue to push crime down in the city.
She's Barbara Duncan. She's our police chief here in Salisbury, Maryland, and we were thrilled to have her here today with great news. Crime stats are down, and we owe it to our chief. So thanks for being here, Chief.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.